Hey, what's going on guys? It's Declan here from TNR, and today I'm going to be doing my X-Men Apocalypse review. It's a bit late, but in comparison to American reviews, it's on time. So, if you see me looking over here, I have my notes up there for the review, so that's what that is, just in case you're wondering. So, I'm going to start off with the good parts, and the first thing is the new actors. Now, we had Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, and Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. They're the main ones I want to talk about. I mean, yeah, there was Nightcrawler, who was fantastic as well. I love the new Nightcrawler. I like him a lot more than Alan Cummings' version, which we had in like X2, stuff like that. Ty Sheridan was fantastic as Cyclops. Cyclops was always a bit underused in the previous films, but in this one he was actually pretty decent. And though he wasn't used as much as I'd like him to, he was still pretty good. And I'm excited to see where they go with him in the future. Same with Sophie Turner as Jean Grey. Obviously, you've cast a Game of Thrones actress, and she was just brilliant. She did her role perfectly. I thought she was really good at portraying the role of Jean Grey and her mental frustration and her mental sort of enclosure that she can't escape from. And I thought she was really good at bringing that across to audiences, especially with that nightmare scene. It was really, really good. And obviously the Dark Phoenix, just amazing. It really shows what's coming in the future. Next thing was great action. I'm obviously talking about the final set piece here, but what I'm mainly talking about though is Apocalypse's powers. It was really good at showing Apocalypse's powers and the way you could use them, the way you could manipulate the X-Men's powers, and it was really good at showing that. And I was so happy because I think Apocalypse is one of the coolest villains like ever in X-Men lore. So it was really, really cool. And so the next thing is Xavier and Magneto. These two have built such a good established relationship within this new trilogy, and that has to hand off to James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender. They are so good together on screen, and this just did it even more. Their tension was pushed to the absolute limit, and it was just brilliant when they just collide. There's even a scene where Fassbender's trying to tempt McAvoy, and he's saying, "I'm not joining you." You've seen it in the trailer, and it was fantastic. It was so good to see. Them two, so good together. They really are. They're brilliant. And the other final good thing I want to talk about, probably my favourite thing in the whole film, Quicksilver. He was so good in Days of Future Past, and in Apocalypse I think he's even better. Not only was he more used as a character, but his scene was even better. And we've seen it in the trailer where he's in the X Mansion just running around. And if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but the song in it just makes it. It makes it. I mean, the song in Days of Future Past was great, but this one's even better in Apocalypse, and I can't stop listening to it now. It's so good. It's such a great song that I used to love, and it's kind of revived my love for that song now. So, he, just like I said in my first impressions, he just completely stole the movie, as always. So now the bad stuff. There was a lot of exposition in the film, and I'm mainly talking about one scene in particular. It's the scene where Professor X and Alex Summers goes to Moira McTaggart, and it just explains too much. Like, it was good showing the Horseman and like the whole backstory behind it, but it was like, oh well, if we don't stop him, it's going to do this and it's going to lead to this, and then this will happen. It's like, we don't need that. We know this is going to happen. We don't need this much exposition. It kind of got tiring and a bit lethargic, and I was just like, yeah, we could do with less of this. It's just getting a bit annoying now, and yeah, I wasn't a fan of that really. And I think the main bad thing about the film was the villain, Apocalypse. He was not that great of a villain, unfortunately. Oscar Isaac, great actor, he really is, but he just wasn't amazing. Whenever you completely obscure his face, change his voice, it doesn't have Oscar Isaac in it, and it's just not as good as he was in, say, Ex Machina or even The Force Awakens. It wasn't Oscar Isaac for me, and that was a shame. And Apocalypse, he didn't really seem like that terrifying. He's meant to be this big mythical god. He wasn't like that at all, really, and that really disappointed me a bit. The Horsemen, some of the Horsemen were good. Storm was good. Also, the new actress for Storm, fine, no problems. And Magneto was, of course, brilliant. But Archangel and Psylocke, completely wasted. Completely. Like, I was so disappointed, because Psylocke was so cool. Archangel I'm not too bothered about, because he had a bit more screen time in the other films and the previous trilogy, but Psylocke, we've barely ever seen. We've seen her in The Last Stand in, like, one scene. And, that was The Last Stand. But I was really hoping she was going to be used, but she wasn't. She's a really cool character. She's got such cool powers, but they just completely wasted her. And I hope she returns. I have a feeling she might do. If you've seen the film, you'll know what I mean. And I think she will return, and I hope she does. And hopefully she is used a lot more than she was used in Apocalypse. I was really disappointed with that. And also Mystique. A lot of people have been saying, oh yeah, Jennifer Lawrence, she's been phoning it in on this last X-Men film. She doesn't really want to do it. And I kind of agree with that, because even though she's a great actress and she was fine in the movie, you could just tell she didn't want to be there, and she looked so unenthusiastic about it. She was barely in the makeup, and this is the most annoying thing. You're playing a comic book character, you're playing Mystique, you're supposed to, be able to be in this makeup, and, if you can't do that, get off set, because, quite frankly, we need Mystique, and she is barely in this film, and she's meant to be leading. I mean, what am I saying? She's in the film a lot, and what I mean is, when she's barely in the film, Mystique's barely in the film. Jennifer Lawrence is in the film a lot. Mystique isn't, and that's the problem, And they tried to work it into the story, but you can tell that's not the story they wanted to tell. They were just doing it because Jennifer Lawrence was like, okay, I'll do this movie on the one condition, and I felt really kind of betrayed in a way, because I think Jennifer Lawrence is a really good actress and she seems like a really nice person in real life. But when it comes like that to one of my favourite franchises, it felt a bit like a backstab, really. And that's a shame. And she was meant to be leading the X-Men, and I'm like, come on, at least in that final battle she was Mystique for most of it. Not for all of it, but for most of it she was. Anyway, so my overall thoughts for X-Men Apocalypse. I absolutely loved it. It was such a good film. It may have seemed like I was coming off a bit negative in this review, which I apologise if it was like that, but I really, really like this film. I don't get the hate it is getting. It does have its problems, it really does. And in my opinion, it is the weakest of this new trilogy. It's nowhere near the worst X-Men film, don't get me wrong, right? But I'd definitely say it's the weakest of this new trilogy. First Class was the best, then Days of Future Past, then Apocalypse. But it's still fantastic. Go watch it. If you love comic book movies, you'll love it. If you love the X-Men movies, you'll love it. It's just a really good movie. It's a really good mix. I really enjoy it. I can't wait for its Blu-ray release so I can watch it again. It's so entertaining, so fun. Now, what I am going to do now, I'm going to talk about what's next for X-Men. Now, we know there's going to be a 90s film, and I think what they should do, I have one request. Get Matthew Vaughn back to direct, because Matthew Vaughn directed First Class, the best one. And if he can do an X-Men film where he doesn't have to establish characters, he doesn't have to establish relationships, I think it could possibly be the best X-Men film ever made. So please, Fox, get Matthew Vaughn back for the 90s one, because I'm kind of getting sick of Bryan Singer now. I kind of am. And I'd much rather have Matthew Vaughn back, considering how I think X-Men First Class is one of the best X-Men films. And he wouldn't have to establish any relationships. So, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. I think Sam has got a Flash Season 2 review coming up, or something like that. So stay tuned for that. Give us a like if you enjoyed it, it'll help us out. And I'll see you guys in the next video.